So today we will be talking about school breakfast. So we have two speakers with us today. We have Rachel Reed-Sanow, who's the school food operations specialist at the Chef Ann Foundation. So she'll be talking to us about different breakfast service models and how to increase breakfast participation. And then we also have Randall Lane or RJ Lane. I think some of you on this call have worked with RJ before. He is the district chef at West Contra Costa Unified School District. So we'll go ahead and get started with Rachel. I could pass it over to you if you want to just introduce yourself and then get going. And then apprentices, if you could just put your name and then your district in the chat for our speakers, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Erica. So before I introduce myself, our first slide, today we're going to talk about how to reassess and elevate your breakfast program. So next slide, please. So my name's Rachel Reed-Sanow. I'm a professional chef. I have over 10 years of school food experience as a former kitchen manager at Boulder Valley School District and a former production kitchen manager at Jefferson County Public Schools, both in Colorado. And I started with Chef Ann Foundation in January of 2023. And I'm a school food operations specialist, as Erica said. Next slide, please. Oh, I skipped one.
Are you seeing, do you want me to go back?
No, that's okay. So the importance of breakfast. More than 30 million students eat school breakfast and lunch every day in the US, and this number is always growing. For some students, these are the only meals they have access to in their day. So it's really our responsibility to make sure these meals are as wholesome, fresh, and as healthy as possible. School food is an opportunity for so many current challenges: academics, health, career, environment, and equity. Healthy school food can directly benefit current and future generations. As school food operators, you can start to make these changes now. When students miss a healthy morning meal, they go to class hungry. We know hunger is associated with lower physical activity, stomach aches, headaches, depression, anxiety, and a decreased ability to focus. Hungry students can't learn. Students who participate in the school breakfast program report decreases in symptoms of hunger, and the program decreases the food insecurity risk of children. One of the most effective ways to significantly boost the school breakfast participation is to make it part of the school day. Traditional school breakfast programs often operate too early for students to participate, particularly if bus or carpool schedules do not allow them to get there on time. So that kind of leads to our next topic. Breakfast service models. There are several different breakfast models that we can use to offer breakfast to our students, so let's discuss those. First, we will talk about breakfast in the cafeteria. In breakfast in the cafeteria, students come through the serving line to select their breakfast meal and eat in the cafeteria before class starts. And I imagine that's what a lot of you are doing right now. Breakfast in the classroom, or BIC, is exactly what it sounds like. In this service model, breakfast meals are packed into insulated totes and coolers, then transported to classrooms for students to eat. This model requires a little more equipment, a little more planning, and requires teacher involvement. So getting buy-in from teachers and administrators, is extremely important, as they're responsible for ensuring students receive reimbursable meals and completing point-of-sale accountability. So consider getting your students involved with reimbursable meals and accountability, especially at the middle and high school levels. When trying to implement this model, you can speak to how you were doing this during COVID, if you did, and you probably did, and get some buy-in there. They've done it before. It should be easy to do it again. So grab and go breakfast is a model where breakfast stations are set up strategically throughout the schools, typically at points of interest, entry, or gathering. Students select their breakfast, transition to their classrooms, and then eat breakfast during their morning announcements. And lastly, we have second chance breakfast, also called breakfast after the bell. This model is operated in conjunction with a traditional breakfast model, such as breakfast in the cafeteria. But second chance breakfast allows students who did not choose to eat when they arrive to school to eat a little bit later. Second chance breakfast is usually served between first and second periods and could be implemented as a grab and go station in a strategic location or in the cafeteria as well. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the breakfast models. Offering breakfast in the classroom helps increase the number of students who have access to breakfast. This model offers meals to all students and typically captures students who may miss breakfast due to arriving late to school or close to the bell. If your school building has a large footprint, this is also a great way to capture students that are hungry but might not want to walk all the way down to the cafeteria. Breakfast in the classroom is a really great way to boost your participation. So some of the things you may want to consider when implementing this, your labor hours. You should consider the time it takes to produce your breakfast menu, plus the time needed to organize, pack, and transport to each of the classrooms. Additionally, you should think about your end of service activities, such as picking up the equipment, unpacking, counting, leftovers, and cleaning. This may require staff to come in earlier than normal due to the time required to assemble the food and supplies needed for delivery and service. And your food safety, think through how you will ensure your hot food stays hot and your cold food stays cold. This means you'll likely need to have new HACCP procedures to ensure you're documenting temperatures correctly and safely. Additionally, this distribution model relies heavily on teachers to distribute the food, which means you will need to ensure they have the training and supplies to do safely, such as gloves and towels. I've also seen students come and pick up the food too, so sometimes that's nice to get the students involved with that process as well. Now I'll discuss counting and claiming. If you choose to operate this model, you will likely use classroom rosters as your point of sale. Typically, these rosters are created on a weekly basis and secured to each classroom cooler or tote bag. Teachers will check off each student as they select the reimbursable breakfast. Rosters are returned each day and meals are then entered into your system for counting and claiming. This model relies on teachers to complete the rosters each day, which means proper training is essential for accountability purposes. You should consider what procedures will be in the event there is a substitute teacher, or what you will do if a roster comes back incomplete. This needs to be clearly developed and communicated process with school administration input and support, and reviewed annually to ensure new staff are trained and on board. And lastly, the equipment used to deliver this breakfast directly to the classroom is extremely important. You should purchase equipment that is durable, can handle auto wear tear. You should consider how many classrooms you'll be delivering to and the layout of your building. This will help you determine the number of coolers, insulated totes, and transport carts you will need to deliver meals safely and efficiently. Does your school have an elevator that you need to deliver to multiple floors? That's something to consider also. So this photo is an example of breakfast in the classroom carts that are ready to go to classrooms. The room is labeled on the cart. There's a sanitizer bucket, trays, serving utensils, gloves for the teacher, and a roster. They do not use a cooling container for these because it's a really quick delivery time and it comes straight from the refrigerator. We are on the trash cans, yes. Finally, you should consider your waste disposal. And this is the biggest thing with your custodians too. They're going to want to know where they need to put the trash. Students are consuming meals in their classroom, which means there are perishable waste, both solid and liquid, being produced in the classrooms. So you want to consider what type of trash cans classrooms currently have. Are they large enough to hold the breakfast waste? You may need to involve your facilities department to understand what thickness of trash can liners are used in the classrooms. Can they hold liquid waste without ripping? And you may want to strategically place large barrel style trash cans with casters in the halls for easier waste management. Additionally, ensuring you have custodial staff on call to address classroom spills is essential, and their support. So breakfast in the classroom is a great way to ensure students are able to eat breakfast in a friendly, comfortable environment. So now we will discuss grab and go breakfast model. This breakfast model brings your breakfast meals to students in those strategic locations as they arrive to school. When you're thinking about implementing this model, there are several things you should take into consideration. First thing you should think about is where you'll place your breakfast service stations and how many you'll need. Oftentimes, a good way to start with this work is by observing arrival procedures in school. Where are the car riders entering the building? Where are your bus riders entering the building? And what other points of entries are the students using? You want to be strategic about where you set this up so that you don't cause a bottleneck getting into the building. When you are considering this entry point for station setup, you should consider the number of students entering the building that your station will serve. There could be hundreds of students entering at once, so you found that you may need to place multiple service stations on both sides of the hallway to serve meals efficiently. This task is likely best completed with someone from school administration because they know the morning processes and the building entry points. And you'll want to determine the equipment that is needed to hold and serve your meals at each station. The equipment you need is typically dependent on the number of students you'll be serving and the number of staff you have to work with. You can use large mobile serving carts, rolling carts with multiple shelves, folding tables with rolling coolers, or speed racks. There's no one size fits all for this model. It really just depends on what works best for your program. And you should think about your labor it'll take to operate this model, how many staff you'll need to prepare, package, and run each breakfast station, what time you need to set up for service, and what time service will start. This is typically determined by the arrival time of students again. And you may need to review your staff schedules and adjust to accommodate this model. Another important part of operating this service model is communication with both school staff and students. How you'll communicate where your students will line up, where your stations are located, and how they will complete the breakfast transaction. Will students need to know their PIN numbers, or will you have a roster? How will you handle special diets in this model? It's good practice to have special diets on hand at each station when you're first starting until you see where those students come in. And think about, again, waste. This service model has students consuming breakfast in their classrooms or in the hallways, which you have perishable items, both liquid and solid, being thrown away in classrooms or in the hallways. It's a good idea to involve your facilities department in thinking through this step too, as it's similar to what we discussed in breakfast in the classroom. So second chance. I'm going to try to speed through this. We want to make sure all students have an opportunity to receive breakfast, and second chance is another way of boosting and capturing that participation. It's also a good way to utilize leftovers from an earlier breakfast or grab and go carts. And it's usually in between first and second period. So when you're getting started, work with your administrators to learn the bell schedules and passing procedures. Adjust the food service staff schedule and job flows to accommodate the extra meal time. Utilize your leftovers from those first breakfasts that are safe to eat to reduce waste. Market breakfast to students and communicate with staff so they know where, when to send the students for second chance breakfast. And make sure this breakfast is only served to students that have not already received breakfast, as anyone who has already received a reimbursable breakfast would need to purchase the item a la carte. And consider your timing on this and make sure it's not too close to lunch, as you don't want to impact lunch participation. So the benefits of adding these alternative breakfasts, next slide, please, sorry, to your existing breakfast program are increased participation from providing convenient and innovative models, improved food accessibility for students from multiple services or options when they or where they can get their meal. This means more students are starting their day off with a healthy breakfast and are ready to tackle their school day. More meal participation means more revenue, which can have a huge positive impact on your school finances. Some schools have doubled or tripled participation just by implementing one of these models. It's not one size fits all and will depend on your district again. One site may love breakfast in the classroom. One site may say no way, but might be willing to another breakfast model like breakfast after the bell or grab and go. So you have some options and flexibility. Next slide, please. So a few things to help you move forward. Think about what are some breakfast items that have been successful in your program? Can any of the things you've learned today or the resources help make some different changes? What breakfast programs can you add in the near future? Do you need to start having these conversations with school administrators now? Conversations are where it starts. So you need to start having the conversations with them before you start any kind of breakfast model. But talk about some of the benefits that I spoke about, and that'll help them kind of see your vision and maybe get some buy-in from them. And then lastly, what are some of the challenges your district faces regarding school breakfast program, and what resources do you need for the future? So thank you. I know that was a ton of information, and I actually cut some out because I wanted to be respectful of your time. But if you have any questions, please.
Thank you, Rachel. That was great information. We'll be sure to share out the slides afterwards as well. Any questions for Rachel? Again, feel free to put your question in the chat as well. If there's no questions, I actually have a question for the apprentices. Can everyone share a little bit about what breakfast model they work in their classroom? That'd be great as well. Oh, Georgina has a question for you, Rachel. You guys gave breakfast to all kids at school, and did you guys use a paper sheet to count how many kids consume breakfast?
Did we give meals to all students? Was that the question?
I'm not sure, Georgina, could you clarify your question if you're able to go off mute? Oh yeah, I guess that was her question.
So the last school district that I worked at that had free school meals, it was counted and then entered in. Another time, though, there were paper rosters. Everyone was allowed free meals, but we did collect them at the end of. It was a breakfast in the classroom situation with 12 different classrooms. The teachers filled out the rosters, and then I just entered them into the POS at the end. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. It looks like it did. Great. And then my next question is Susanna has a question about which breakfast service model you find most efficient and beneficial.
If you can do it breakfast in the classroom because you have that captive audience and they feel safe eating with their peers.
Thank you. And Noriko asks who decides the breakfast model, the kitchen manager or who at the district is usually the one.
It's usually a conversation between the kitchen manager and then whoever the principal is. Because the principal has to agree to the types of models you run, because it's going to, I wouldn't say interfere, I say enhance the classroom learning experience, but it is going to take a little bit of time in between some of those breaks.
Thank you. And then it looks like some people are just sharing what they do. From my question, so Jamie does breakfast in the classroom at elementary and breakfast before the bell and second chance breakfast at middle school and high school. And then Elisa as well as Laura both do breakfast in the classroom, which is great to see. And Albany does breakfast as grab and go. Great, that is cool to hear. And then Cynthia also has a question about whether breakfast in the classroom works well for bigger schools. Rachel, if you have any suggestions on that.
I've seen it work, but you're going to have a lot of buy-in from your teachers and from some of the other support staff. And it's also going to be, it would be a pretty big lift for your kitchen to pack all of that stuff as well. So you'd really have to think about the labor that you would want to put into that.
Okay, well, and then we have another question from Luis. My school does breakfast in the classroom and has issues with teachers and subs following procedures and filling out rosters for reimbursement. Are there any handy resources that are available to train teachers?
We do have an SOP that we can send that does have breakfast in the classroom training for teachers.
Great. Well, we'll be while we pass it over to RJ, we could try to find that on Lunchbox real quick and we'll drop in the chat. But I think that is a perfect segue into RJ's presentation. I think Rachel kind of talked about that big or that high level overview of what breakfast models exist. And then RJ is going to give us a little preview into what they do at West Contra Costa Unified and what works there and how they model breakfast. So RJ, I will pass it over to you.
Here we go. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have anything to tell you guys. Rachel covered it all, so good job.
RJ, before you get started, just a
Yes.
quick note. I was going through your slides and your 9th slide has an audio clip attached to it. I don't know if that was intentional, but it sounds like a lot of feedback. So
Ew.
will you guys
Let's
just let me know if you're unable to take that off right now? Will you guys just let me know if you can hear that as
let
I'm
me see if I
presenting?
can hop on real quick and take it off. I thought I took it off.
It was playing when I was just clicking on it. So I just wanted to, that would probably distract from your presentation.
Yeah. Well, we can get started while I'm doing that. I can multitask.
Yeah, that sounds great. Let
Great.
me go ahead and present.
Alrighty.
And then Emily, if you're sharing your slides, if you mute it, it might just be fine. But
Okay, everybody. Well, we're going to talk about breakfast at West Contra Costa Unified School District. And next slide, please. My name is Randall. You guys are welcome to call me RJ. Most people do. I'm the chef at West Contra Costa Unified School District. We have a central kitchen in Richmond, California. West Contra Costa has 54 sites, 28,000 students. We serve about 15,000 meals a day out of the central kitchen. And we serve 7 cities in West Contra Costa. Emily, are you looking at, did you download it or are you running it right off of Canva?
I'm running it right off of Canva.
Because for me, slide 9, it doesn't have, it does just pictures. It doesn't have video anymore.
Well, let's just try it.
Okay.
And you guys can let me know if you're hearing something.
Great. So, yep, next slide. So there's tons of challenges with breakfast. As we heard from Rachel, there's not a lot of time to cook when you get there. It's not like you've got all day to plan and prep and everything like that. There's also not a lot of time for students, as Rachel talked about. You know, there's issues with kids getting to school once they are at school. A lot of times I've got 2 teenagers, they're talking to their friends, and a lot of times, you know, breakfast is the last thing on their mind. So it can be a time constraint on their part. Most of your school sites do not have full staff first thing in the morning. A lot of the staff is staggered throughout the morning. You get more people for for lunch, and you know, prepping for lunch. So that's a big challenge as well. The site's opinions can make your job a lot harder. And what do I mean by that? So sometimes, for at least for us, some of our principals have decided that maybe we don't need syrup with pancakes, and maybe some of the teachers have decided that muffins are a dessert and shouldn't be served for breakfast, or maybe even, you know, some of the parents have their own ideas about what they serve at home versus what we serve, and the regulations and standards are something that either of those people are thinking about that we have to consider every single day. So all of these things make our job a little bit more difficult, but you know, nothing's impossible. So school food people, we overcome challenges. Next slide, please. At West Contra Costa, I'm going to talk about breakfast, but very, very, very specifically, I'm going to talk about our muffin program. These are a couple pictures from our boot camp of my employees. At West Contra Costa, we've got 250 employees that serve our students, 50 of which work at our central kitchen. And next slide, please. We are going to go over the good, the bad, and the ugly about our muffin program. So what does our muffin program consist of? So we make a muffin mix from scratch at our central kitchen in very large 30-gallon batches. We put those into 3-gallon buckets and send them out to our secondary sites so they can make fresh muffins for our students every single morning. And then on occasion, in our rotating menu, we make muffins for the elementary sites about once every week or 2 weeks, depending on what part of the cycle we're in. And that when we do that, we're making 5,000 of them at a time. So at the sites, they're making them fresh every day. And at those sites where they're making them fresh every day, their cafeterias smell amazing because nothing smells better in the morning than fresh muffins. The bad, they do contain some sugar. That's not actually a muffin. That's actually a cinnamon roll that we dipped into some cinnamon sugar. I just wanted to emphasize the sugar. But the other bad thing about them is they do take some time to bake. It's not like we can just walk in, throw pre-baked muffins into a warmer, and we're good to go. The other bad thing about it, I wouldn't say it's necessarily bad, it's just a challenge, is that not all of our staff are trained to bake. But that's something that we can overcome. Now, the ugly, and you can see that those are some pretty poor looking muffins on the right. Some staff will bake our muffins a day ahead, which is something I've forbidden, but I still see happen all the time. And some staff will mix the muffin batter the day before, or even worse, the Friday before, to bake on a Monday, and put them in the walk-in and leave them there, and then bake them the next morning or the next Monday. And they get flat muffins like you see up there, which are terrible. So inconsistency can really kill the reputation of any food program that you've got. And, all of this really comes back to training, right? So next slide, please. We're going to go over the central kitchen production of what it looks like when we make 5,000 muffins at our central kitchen. Next slide, please. That is on the left right there, that's Martina. We're making the pumpkin chocolate chip muffin. We do this one in the months of October and November. She's moving so fast, we can barely take a picture of her anytime where she's not a blur in the camera. But this is when we're making 5,000 muffins. We've got a rotary oven, which is unfortunately is broken right now, but so we can lift up 2 racks at a time and bake off about 200 muffins at once. And it's really a big chore to mix, scoop, and bake all the muffins. We have to get this going like 2 or 3 days ahead of time just to fill the order. But the kids love it a lot, and it's worth the time and effort for us to do it because participation is so high on those days. Next slide, please. Here's what scooping looks like. So we've got tons and tons of these pans. We're scooping into the papers. We're putting them into the tray. The trays go onto the racks and we stage them, and everything gets rotated in. They only take about 25 to 30 minutes to bake. They actually take longer to cool down than they do to bake. We want to make sure to cool them completely before putting them into Cambro tubs to be sent out to the sites. Next slide, please. For the site staff, this is all our site staff right here. We do a culinary boot camp anytime we have any time off, like during the summertime, during spring break or Christmas break or Thanksgiving break. We do a 3-day beginner boot camp. And one of the things that we do during the boot camp is we go over this recipe. A lot of these folks are elementary site folks. They don't make muffins on the regular, but someday they might go and they might work at a secondary site, or they might come down to the central kitchen. So it's really important for them to have the skill base in order to walk right into muffin production. And they just really, really enjoy the experience. So it also dovetails with a part of the training where I ask everybody to read a recipe. And reading a recipe is like a really big part of the boot camp training, because I recommend that people read it 3 times, and not everybody reads a recipe 3 times. And they learn a lot about reading a recipe 3 times because they pick something else up every single time they read it. Even though this is an incredibly basic recipe, it's a muffin mix. There's not much that goes into it. The biggest part about the culinary training that we do, the biggest benefit for our staff, is that they not only get the experience, but they also feel empowered. We get incredible employee buy-in by going through this process and having everybody together in a big group. And if they felt like they didn't have the skills before, they weren't really, they told us they didn't feel that scratch cooking was worth it, or scratch cooking was possible, or anything like that. I mean, you can see the pictures. There's nothing but smiles on everybody's faces. They really, really loved the experience, and they walked away with a new perspective on what we do at the central kitchen, what they do at the secondary sites, and also what's possible where they're at. Next slide, please. For the future, I'm actually in the process of getting a delivery of what's called a liquidizing paddle mixer. It's going to revolutionize the way that we are able to make this muffin mix, because it will more evenly mix up the flour, baking powder, salt, and sugar that go into this mix, and make it easier for us to dump out so we don't have to scoop it at all. They'll just fall right into the buckets rather than us having to scoop it out. And it'll also mix together our granola that we make in-house. So we're really looking forward to getting this piece of equipment. I've been trying to get this for about 1.5 years, 2 years now. Next slide, please. I've got some links here for anybody who would like them. All you got to do is put your phone up to it and follow the QR code. On the right is all of my muffin recipes, including the recipe for making 1 bucket of muffin mix, my cornbread muffins, and also all of the muffin flavors. And then on the left is the recipe folder that I have in my Google Drive that has tons and tons of different recipes of all different kinds. You're more than welcome to use them, because I can't steal your customers and you can't steal mine, and there's no reason I wouldn't share everything I have with any one of you. That's awesome. So next slide, please. Here's a video. I'm really, really, really fortunate to have somebody that takes videos, and we have a YouTube channel at West Contra Costa, not only for training, but also just for our social medias and things like that. But Luis is fantastic. He shoots my videos and he edits them and he puts them up on YouTube. I'm very lucky because I don't know how to do any of that kind of stuff, and he does a great job. But you're more than welcome to take a look at that and look at all of our other videos that are on our channel. Next slide, please. And I just want to stop by saying thank you. And I hope that was helpful if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, RJ. That's making me really hungry. So perfect. Great timing as
Well, just come by. You're not that far from me, are you?
Unfortunately, I'm in Denver, so I'm very far from you.
Oh,
But next
well,
time I'm in the area, I will be stopping by to
I
grab
feel
some
like,
muffins for
yeah,
sure.
I feel like you're here all the time.
I am there a decent amount, so
Right.
you're right. Well, thank you, RJ. Anyone have any questions for RJ and West Contra Costa's breakfast program? Or any questions about the muffins specifically as well?
Don't be shy. Main reason I wanted to start a muffin program. So we had been purchasing a lot of, we used to serve muffins at once a week that were pre-made. And both my director and I feel very strongly about single-use plastic waste, and also the use of preservatives. The one thing I didn't mention in all of this, our muffins are also 100% organic. West Contra Costa does everything that we can to buy as much organic flour and sugar and fruits and vegetables and meats and cheeses as we possibly can. So that is one way that I can offer kids an organic muffin and it won't break the bank. And we don't have to use the plastic.
I love that. And it looks like Tiffany's also asking how much the paddle, or how much was the paddle mixer?
45 grand. Delivered. The biggest challenge with starting the program was, and still remains to be, training. Because it's the one thing I say about training with my staff, it's not a one and done. It's something that needs to be constantly revisited, because people will always look for shortcuts no matter what. They're very creative with shortcuts, And sometimes that's for better, and I learned something. I'm always willing to learn something new, and sometimes it's not for better, and we need to explore why it's not the best way. We need to do the best thing for the students. Like there are sites that I mentioned, would mix muffins and put them into the trays and leave them in the walk-in over the weekend. That's not going to work. The baking powder starts to activate as soon as you put liquid into it, and over the course of the weekend, you're going to get a flatty patty muffin. Nobody likes that. At the boot camp, they make everything. I have a handbook. If anybody's interested, you're more than welcome to have a copy of the handbook, and then you can put your own pictures in it and your own school's logo, and you can use it if you want to do your own boot camp. I also have slides that for both days. If you want to use those, you can. Yeah, specifically organic sources for baking or for everything in general? So the best one I use is in Northern California. They're called Gustos. They're out of Petaluma, and they sell everything organic for baking. Most of the flour I get is specifically central milling. And that's really nice because that goes, straight from the farm in Utah, milled there, and then it comes direct to us. There's not a lot of middlemen between us and the farmers.
RJ, is that the right link I just put in? Keith Gusto Bakery Supply.
That's the one.
Perfect. And if
I'm
you could
uncertain
send
how
us
far
those-
away they deliver, but I was using them before I started working for the school district. I'm sorry, what was your question?
I was just gonna say, if you could send me the resources that you just mentioned as well by email, I can include that in a follow-up email to everyone.
Okay.
Thanks. And RJ, I have a question for you. With your breakfast program and then maybe your muffin program as well, what is a goal that you have to expand that program? Maybe two questions. Number one, what is your goal, or something new you'd like to try related to baking in your muffin program? And then do you have any other goals related to your breakfast program more generally as well?
So we would like to start doing them fresh at the sites at the elementary schools. But we need more of the elementary schools to be more than just cooking site or heating sites. They need to be cooking sites. They need to have more than one person in the morning. Because it would just be too hard for one person to do this all by themselves. Most of them don't show up before 7, so there would need to be a lot of restructuring of people's job descriptions and their hours, because they would need to be there at 6:30 at the minimum to get this rolling in time. Start to finish, it's probably about an hour. When you get in, you gather the ingredients. You can, the day before, you can put together the milk, eggs, oil, and vanilla, and mix it together and leave it in the walk-in. So when you get in, you can pre-measure the day before all of your dry mix, so that when you get in, you just combine the two. You can save yourself a lot of time, but you still got to mix it. You still got to portion it out. You still got to bake it. You still got to warm up the ovens. Takes time, but I think it's time well spent. The same muffin mix that I made, I also adapted to make something very similar to the Los Angeles coffee cake recipe. I don't know if there's anybody that's familiar with it. Maybe Michelle's, are you familiar with the LA coffee cake? But that one turns out really well. I'd like to see sites make that one. Other things that we're trying and hoping for in the future, we would like to see more savory things made at sites. We'd like to see them cooking more eggs. We'd like to see them, we make an egg and potato burrito at the central kitchen and we send it out for them to reheat, but we'd like to see more of those sorts of things being made out at the sites. We do egg bites every once in a while. In the morning, we make those at the central kitchen and they reheat them at the sites, very similar to the egg bites that you would buy at Starbucks or something like that. I think it would be very possible for them to do those at the site. It's just getting the buy-in from the employees.
Great. Thank you, RJ. Well, if there's no more questions, we could let you and Rachel go for today, but thank you so much for joining. And apprentices, if you could just stay on for housekeeping, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
Have a good day.
both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, for everyone else, if you haven't noticed, we do have a new face from the Chef Ann Foundation team on this call today. So we actually have a new coordinator of California Apprenticeship joining our team, Juliana, and she started on Monday, so she's on day 3 now. But Juliana, I could pass it over to you if you want to just quickly introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. As Erica said, I'm Juliana. I am taking over Emily's position as program coordinator, and I'm so excited to be here. I know I'll get to meet all of you, so I'm excited for that. And yeah, just wanted to give a little hi, and I'm excited to speak with all of you soon.
Thanks, Juliana. So Juliana will be taking over Emily's role. So Emily's not leaving the Chef Ann Foundation, so she will still be around. She's just moving into a new role away from the apprenticeship program. So she is now senior coordinator of supply chains, correct, Emily? Yes. So she will be transitioning out of this role over the next few weeks. So you'll start seeing Juliana's email pop up in communications Emily's sending out to you. And then around the end of April, that's when Juliana will really start taking over as your point of contact for the program. So we'll let you all know when that transition's official and Emily's officially off this program at that point. But if you have any questions, feel free to continue directing them to Emily for now. But at some point in late April, that'll be transitioning over to Juliana. We're sad to see Emily go, but she will still be around as a resource and who knows, maybe even a virtual learning session speaker at some point in the future as well. So, Emily, I don't know if you want to also just give a little bit of background about what your new role will look like, just so everyone has an idea about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really exciting, and it's a new category of work that Chef Ann Foundation is taking on. So we are doing research on bringing together school districts in buying groups to be able to purchase more values aligned foods. So say you want to try and buy organic, or you want to try and buy more local produce, or you'd like to support small scale farmers, however your district defines that. The idea is that by grouping smaller districts together, they'll have a little bit more buying power and be able to make bigger orders at a cheaper price. So we're doing a bunch of research on that right now. And it is going to be California based to start. And so I'm still going to be working in all of your regions as well. And we're in talks with some different groups. So it's very exciting work. I hope to be able to share it more broadly soon. But like I said, we're in our kind of exploratory phase right now. So
Thanks, Emily. So yeah, sad to see her go, but she'll still be around, and Juliana will be a great addition to the team. Last thing I'll mention is for Spanish speakers, Juliana is also fluent in Spanish as well, so she'll still be able to support you in both English and Spanish, whatever language you prefer. Outside of that, our only other reminder is that our next virtual learning session is going to be April 23rd. Emily, anything else to add outside of that?
I don't think so. Keep up the good work with all of your online coursework. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to help. And yeah, we're here. Thank you all so much. I hope that you enjoyed today's call.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I hope everyone has a great rest of their evening. Bye.